lot goes into the preparation for the Olympic Games. In Athens, there was a huge challenge to leave behind a positive legacy in the birthplace of the sports event. It was the crowning moment for Greece the day the International Olympic Committee announced Athens as the winner to stage the 2004 Games. Sheer jubilation hit the streets of Athens on September 5, 1997, when IOC President Juan Antonio Samaranch made the announcement.
We have the honor and responsibility to organize the Olympic Games of 2004 is
The opportunity of hosting the Games has been a long time coming for Greece, having suffered disappointment after losing the bid for the 96 Games, which would have been the centennial from the first modern Games in 1896. But it hasn't been a smooth ride. 3 years after winning the bid, Athens was in danger and risked losing hosting the event altogether after Samaranch at IOC headquarters in Lucerne said Athens was nearing red light danger levels due to delays in planning of the sports event. Delays in the construction of venues and public works, government bureaucracy and infighting, and slow progress led to a barrage of criticism and set off panic buttons within the Athens Organising Committee. 6 months later, current IOC President Jacques Roger, on another inspection visit to the host city, said Athens was back on track, but still echoed cautiously optimistic sentiments and warnings about the lack of time left. The government had brought back Gianna Angelopoulos Daskalaki as president of the Athens Organising Committee, known for leading the campaign that won the bid for Athens for the 2004 Games. The confident and photogenic Angelopoulos Daskalaki has become a pseudo-mascot for the Games, whose task was to unify employees, volunteers and ministers under one challenge. In the next 3 years, the IOC's tune continued with strong warnings, although by 2003, officials began using positive phrases such as outstanding progress and saying that Athens was starting to look like an Olympic city. Cautious overtones and reminders about the shortage of time still remain, however, with concerns over projects that have tight deadlines and public works that are still in the construction phase. These are the areas that will be under scrutiny until the start of the Games. Completion of the construction of venues and infrastructure projects will remain a concern, as many venues are still uncompleted at this point, deadlines tight, with some works not expected to be completed until just before the Games. Building is making headway, however, with buildings starting to spring up on the ground and taking shape where there was once rubble. IOC officials have expressed concerns over the plausibility of completion of one project, the construction of a roof over the Olympic Stadium in the main Olympic complex. Pieces of the roof are still to be imported from other countries. Athens officials say the design, the work of Spanish architect Santiago Calatrava, will leave a legacy for the city and are pushing ahead with its construction. But IOC officials have previously stated the roof is not necessary and could hamper progress towards other, more important works. Focus also remains on transport work in Athens, including roadworks such as ring roads and highways linking venue sites, the extension of a subway system, and the construction of a new light rail tram, of which few tracks are visible. The entire city has been unearthed as building still continues on these projects. IOC officials are anxious about their completion. The government and organisers are pinning their hopes on these projects to reduce the heavy traffic congestion and pollution that plagues the city. frequented by some 1.4 million cars and causing bumper-to-bumper traffic jams. Environmentalists have praised the transport projects to reduce congestion, but little else in the planning of the 2004 Games, giving Athens a low grade. Greece also has the added responsibility of preparing a better, tighter security system after global events and September 11, 2001, which have brought terrorism to the front line of concern for all involved. The government will employ some 45,000 security officials for the Games. In comparison, Sydney 2000 had 15,000, the Atlanta Games 9,000. Security expert Peter Ryan, in charge of security in Sydney 2000, has been brought in, as well as advisors from a number of countries, including Britain, Israel and the United States. But closing negotiations with a security company had dragged on before taking place earlier this year, and equipment must be put in place and tested, and security forces trained in time. Up until 2002, Greece had to deal with its own terrorist organisation, November 17, responsible for 25 assassinations over 2 decades. Going into the Games with such a threat would have been a nightmare scenario for the government. But a big break last year for police led to the unravelling of the organisation and cheers from across the globe for the success. The first test for Athens was the World Junior Rowing Championships. The opportunity for organisers to show their best colours came off to a crooked start, however. The event was riddled with high winds, causing the postponement of some races and causing rowers to capsize, and an investigation has been launched with the intervention of the Prime Minister into the German team suffering gastroenteritis from salmonella poisoning. IOC Inspection Chief Dennis Oswald praised the rowing venue, however, expressing his satisfaction with the site. What is undoubtable is the romance of bringing the Games back to their homeland and its emotional and symbolic impact. The very first Games of antiquity were held in Olympia in 776 BC to honour the Greek supreme mythical god Zeus. Then, also athletes came from all over the world to participate in sporting events. But their only prize was being crowned by an olive wreath, the greatest achievement. Marble statues may be all that remain of athletes who participated in a spectacle born 2,780 years ago, but the Olympic events then still remain today. Sprinting, javelin, discus, long jump, wrestling, boxing and equestrian events were performed by barefoot athletes in an event that lasted 5 days and was followed by mass celebration. Athletes' training started 10 months before the event, and all armed conflicts amongst city-states were suspended for months around the Games in what is known as the Olympic Truce. The tradition of white-clad priestesses calling on the ancient gods to inspire the athletes and send down rays to light the Olympic flame continues today, although it was not until the modern Berlin Games of 1936 that the torch relay began, after the flame was first taken from Olympia to Berlin. For the 2004 Games, for the first time in history, the Olympic torch is run through 5 continents. The ancient Games ended around 393 AD when a Roman emperor banished them as pagan. They were not revived until 1896, the dream come true of a French nobleman, and were held at the Panathenæum Stadium in central Athens, still standing today, and site of some events of 2004. Then the game had only 231 athletes, all male, and many of them tourists and bystanders. The 2004 Games have 28 sporting events and more than 10,000 athletes.